Hello everybody and welcome back to the Gaming Powerups. On today's video, we are going to be doing a buying guide on what you ask a Nintendo DS. What to look for, what kind of hardware they have available, what kind of games, what kind of accessories you will need. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Alrighty, so the first one up is the DS Lite. So the DS Lite functions just about the same as the DS original. The only difference is that the power port for charging is different. This one uses its own power plug. This one here, this dark gray cord. And the original DS uses the Game Boy Advance SP charger. So they did unfortunately only use this plug for the DS Lite. In other models, they went with something else. So this is the only real purpose you'll ever need to have this charger for. Difference between now the DS Lite versus a DSi is this is the second iteration of the DS. So this one here still has your dual screens. Screens aren't any bigger, but what it does have is your DS slot, and it does have a Game Boy Advance SP slot. So the only thing to note is that this does not it will fit Game Boy games, it just will not play them. You can play Game Boy Advance games through here. Only downfall with this is that because there's no actual spot to plug in a link cable, this is all wireless. So if you're trading Pokemon back and forth, you're playing a game with a multiplayer game with a friend, it does it all like wirelessly. So there's no so unfortunately there's no way to trade or play a Game Boy Advance game with a friend through this, just because there's nowhere to plug it in. Main differences between the DS Lite and the DSi is the DSi added a camera here and right here. So the only other big thing that, at least for me, why I didn't jump on one of these things right away when it came out is because it took away the Game Boy slot. So that's a big deal for me because I have a lot of Game Boy Advance games I wanted to play, and being able to play on a new console was awesome. But they did unfortunately take that away when they did the DS Lite. This one's actually my son's. So, either one of these will do the job. They both, visually look the same. Screens are practically the same size. I mean, this one's a little bit bigger. Very dirty, as my son uses his finger a lot on here. But, they're pretty much the same size units. They've changed the power button to an actual button. On the DS Lite, it's here on the side. Both have a spot for styluses, just on the other side. Just sits on the sides just like that. L and R buttons. Now you've got, going up from Game Boy Advance to DS, now you have 4 face buttons. Your start, your select, your L and R. So it is pretty much the same console, except that it added in the ability for cameras. They did have some online stuff with this, but obviously all that eShop stuff is down now. They don't have it up there anymore. So if you're looking at collecting for the DS, and a Game Boy Advance slot is a big deal to you, I would go with the DS Lite. If you are looking at getting something with for cameras, or if it just happens to be cheaper, you don't care about the Game Boy Advance, go with the DS Lite, the DSi. Now, my favorite, actually, so I took me a little while to get the DS Lite, because what I ended up getting was a DS Lite XL. So you can see there's quite a bit of a difference in between the two of these. Just by taking a look at that right there, it's a pretty big difference between the two. Still has the same functions, doesn't have the Game Boy slot, still has your stylus, but it is just exactly as it sounds, as an XL version of the DSi. So as you can see, very, very big difference. I didn't want to get something that was pretty much the same. So when I did get my DSi XL, it's great. I love it. For my giant hands, it fits really comfortably in here. I've put a lot of hours into using this DS here, especially because the DS Lite is kind of small, and over time looking at it for too long just kind of hurts my eyes. So this one here is nice and big screen, big, just overall big. It's extra large like myself. So, if you're looking for something that's a little bit bigger and a little less hard on the eyes, the DSi XL is actually a really, really good option for that. Another thing to note is it does have a different charging port than the DS Lite. So both DSIs have the same kind of charging port here. It is also the same one they've carried onto the 3DSs, the new 3DSs, new 3DS XL. Apologies, words are hard sometimes, guys. But it's the same charger they've carried over. They actually, when they released the new models of the new Nintendo 3DSs, they actually didn't even put a charger in there because they're like, you guys probably already have one, so no need for us to put it in there. Kind of silly idea, but whatever. You got a spot here that you can kind of put like one of those little wrist yarn things through so you can hold it on your wrist. But overall, solid handheld gaming device. So those are your differences in hardware. So we will come back with some accessories. All right, so let's talk accessories. So for accessories for the DS Lite, is this clear plastic cover here that covers the majority of the console itself. It doesn't cover anything on the inside, but just the outside for when it goes in your pocket, if heaven forbid it falls down or anything like that. I've always been a fan of anything like a plastic covering or these armors, as they call them for the DSIs. I've got just a sticker on top of here. This isn't, I wish that they would have come out with the Legend of Zelda edition before I bought this DS, because I definitely would have jumped on it, but I kind of like this sticker. I got it in a kit that had, headphones, different stylus, and it came with stickers and then just silicone sleeves for the games, so that made it easier for transport. So speaking of stylus, you can get them in all different kinds of colors, different shapes and sizes and stuff like that. I just prefer the ones that slip into the console itself so that I don't have to leave it in a separate pocket or lose it or anything like that. That way it's always there. I don't play many games that I need to use the touchscreen all that often, and if I do, I usually just use the pen because my finger is just too big. So there are different options for stylus and stuff like that. Same thing with... my son doesn't like to leave his in there, but you've got it on the DSi and the DSi XL. DSi XL actually has a little bit bigger of a stylus, nothing too big, but it is a little bit bigger to note. So again, you've got these armors. The other thing that I don't have for protecting the console is screen protectors, just because I don't like how you can't get rid of the rainbow effect on the touchscreen. The top usually goes down just fine, but it's just something to do with the bottom touchscreen that for whatever reason just always has that rainbow effect, or it just doesn't ever sit properly. So I've just never put them on because I just don't like the look of them. But that's another option you can do for this to help prolong the life of it a little bit more. Another cool little accessory I like, Action Replay, Game Shark. So you would plug this into your computer via USB, you add on your codes, you pop this into your DS or DSi, just like so. This one doesn't go in because of my my case, but pop it in just like this. Goes in, it reads off the memory, and then you swap it out, put your game cart in, and then you've got some cheese. Because sometimes trying to find all of those Pokemon is very difficult. So I always like to have a Game Shark whenever possible. Another thing is carrying case. Carrying cases got a lot nicer with these. This one's for my DS Lite. It's just got a little strap here to hold it in, a little pocket for some games and stuff like that. Especially with the DS, got a lot of really good titles on there. So you're not just going to want to have one game with you. You got a couple in there, a couple extra stylus. Maybe you got a cloth to wipe down the screen, but really soft in here. Never had any issues. I just like the profile. It's nothing too big. Something that I can just quick and easily throw into a bag. Another thing that I like for the DS, if you got a lot of games, is one of these game holders, just because these things are kind of small. So they can get lost kind of easily. So I like to have them in a container like this. And that way, I think this one fits 24 games, 23, because this one's for like a SD card. But yeah, this one says 3DS, but 3DS and DS fit just about the same. So, having one of these and being able to, especially if you're going on a long road trip or a trip, you and the kids playing it, maybe you can load it up with some games, throw it in your bag along with your pouch, and you're good to go. So one neat thing that I found with game cases was that when they first came out, they had, this was the DS case here. You open it up and you had your spot for your DS cartridge, but you also had your Game Boy Advance. So that was kind of cool too. So, if you wanted to keep a Game Boy Advance safely, away from just sitting in a drawer, pop it in one of these. I actually custom make covers for these when I find extra ones of these specific style Nintendo DS cases, just to fit my Game Boy Advance games. Just looks nicer on a shelf. You can see exactly what you have, and it's a little easier than just trying to stack them up because they don't really fit very well. So you kind of end up throwing them in a drawer. They all kind of just scramble around. So once they took out the GBA slot out of the DS Lites for the DSIs, they got rid of these, so you only just have the spot for the DS. Last accessory I wanted to talk about is the R4 card. So the R4 card is basically a DS size game cartridge that fits a micro SD card. So you can hook this up to your computer, download a bunch of games. I won't tell you where to find them, but you can download a bunch of games on here. Make sure you've got the proper firmware for these, because they won't run if they don't. They do need to be updated. There's a lot of guides online on how to set these things up and where to put the firmware, so when you start it back up, you're good to go. Pop it in there, pop this into your DS, and it will open up to a menu just like this. Wait, as this loads up. So it'll get, obviously this isn't Touch Bomberman Land, but it just recognizes it as a game. That's the game it chose. It'll open up to a menu here. You've got your games, and then you can just add your games here. So this is a really good alternative to keeping a bunch of games on hand if you don't want to actually have a bunch of your games sitting out, especially some of these games getting a little more expensive. So I do like to have some backups of mine so that I don't have the issue of ever losing them. So the R4 card is perfect for that. They come in all shapes and sizes. This one's the dual core 2016 version. They have 2019, 18, the gold version. They all essentially do the same thing. As long as you've got, your real-time saves in here. It says 3DS upgrade on here. This will not play 3DS games. This will only play DS games, but the DS cartridges do fit inside the 3DSs, so you can use this in a 3DS to play DS games too, which is really cool. But it is, I believe they go up to, it'll read up to 32 gig or 64 gig micro SD card. So you can pack a lot of games on here when the average ones are only about 100 to 300 megabytes. So you fit quite a few games on here and fit a good library on for your DS, and it's only just all in one card. So that, and let's go over a couple of must-have games. So there are some games in here that, you guys know me, Pokemon, always number one in my books. I love having Pokemon games. There are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9 mainstream Pokemon games, and they've got like the Mystery Dungeon and other ones like that. A couple other really good games here. Legend of Zelda, obviously, again, you know me, it's Legend of Zelda. You got New Super Mario Bros., which is a really fun game. Mario Party, Star Fox, Sonic, Diddy Kong Racing. The cool thing with the DS is that they did port a lot of the N64 games over. So Diddy Kong Racing, you had Super Mario for the N64, but then it gave you the option of playing with a couple of other players as well, like Wario, Luigi, and Yoshi. Mario Kart, always a staple in any collection for Legend or for the Nintendo. I just love being able to buy Nintendo consoles for Nintendo games. I'm not a big fan of third-party games on Nintendo. I just find that a lot of them don't work as proper as they should, or don't look as good as they should. I'll just show you guys a little startup on this big one right here. But, when you're talking Pokemon, when you're talking Mario, when you're talking Legend of Zelda, Star Fox, Metroid, they all kind of nail them out of the park. So they always look really good. But like screen, it's beautiful. Like it's a huge display to be able to play some of your games on the go. So thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you liked my buying guide. Let me know in the comments below. Do you have a DS? Do you plan on getting one? Is there any questions you have that I can help answer? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, guys, game on.